Hi everyone, it's Sharon here, and it's the day after the free monthly healing call in May. And on last night's call, I did say that for any questions that we didn't have time to cover on the call, I would record answers separately. So there were 3 questions that didn't get answered because we needed to get onto the healing. So these are the 3 questions remaining, and here are the answers. So Pam asked, do you use sound in distance healing if you're not on a call or Zoom? So the answer to that question is yes, is a simple answer. Just because you're the one creating the high vibration energy, you're the one creating the healing space and the energy to be transferred, and therefore sound is very much a part of that. So even if the other person can't hear the sound, the vibration and the energy is being generated. So yes, the answer is yes, you would still do the sound even if someone else is not hearing the sound itself. So question number 2 was from Norman. So he's asked, if we are not permitted to wear animal products for healing work, does that mean that the animal spirit is still alive? So just to give some context for that, what Norman is referring to is that in quantum touch, one of the guidelines is that we take off anything leather that we might be wearing. So that's leather watch straps or leather belt, leather clothing. And that's only because I think in the early days when Richard Gordon was trialing to see everything that energy worked through, it didn't really seem to work through leather. So Norman's question is related to that. So it's not that you're not permitted, it just means that it doesn't really work that effectively through leather. It doesn't mean that the animal spirit is still there. I don't think we know the exact reason why it doesn't quite work through leather. My best guess for that has always been that life force energy is obviously everything. It's life force. It's what it works on things that are living. It doesn't work on things that are dead. And animal products like leather are dead. So I don't know. I think that's my best guess with that one. But it's not because there's a spirit still there or anything like that. It's just that in terms of effect, how effective it is, it didn't seem to work very well through leather. And that was, I think, just Richard Gordon testing all materials just to see what worked, what didn't work. He's a big experimenter. And I understand that. I'm a very curious person myself, and I'd want to check everything out as well. So hopefully that answers your question, Norman. And then finally, the 3rd question, which is quite a big question, which is why I had to sort of leave it to be answered today, because it's quite a big answer. Tanya asked, how can I learn to be at peace? So a previous question that Tanya brought up was, how do I know I'm at high vibration and therefore the dominant vibration? Because we were talking about how whoever holds the dominant vibration, other people have to come up to meet our vibration. So in terms of how do I learn to be at peace? Well, the good news is you don't have to learn anything. The thing about the spiritual path is actually, if anything, instead of learning, it's an unlearning. So peace is one of our essence states. So love, peace and joy are our 3 highest vibrational and most powerful energy fields. And peace would be in the top. When we talk about people who are enlightened, we see them as being very peaceful, and that's very true. They are peaceful, right? So peace is really an essence state. So the way I look at it is, it's like your essence. Love, peace is peace and joy. Love, peace and joy is your essence. Think of that as the sun, your true nature, right? It's always shining. And the only thing that makes you think that the sun isn't shining is that there are clouds and weather formations, right? Obscuring the always shining sun. But if the clouds pass, you will see that there has always been the sun. And love, peace and joy, our true nature, is like that. So we are always, beneath everything else in our lives, we are always love, peace and joy. The only thing that obscures that and makes us not feel that that's true are the clouds. So what are the clouds? The clouds are our mind, our thoughts. So if we want more peace, there are lots of practices that you can do, but you're not really learning anything new. If anything, you're just subtracting. Right? So we're trying to move the clouds gently away so we can see that there is peace underneath, right? So our thoughts are what creates this sense, this feeling of lack of peace. So the mind was given to us as a tool. It's given us to us to look after us, protect us from danger, real danger, not stress, just real danger. And it's there to help us do stuff in the world, right? So, but the mind has to interpret what's happening. And it's these interpretations of what's going on in your perception that tends to create stress, worry, anxiety, judgment, anger, sadness. And so it's our interpretation, our mind's interpretations of what's going on that creates that lack of peace. It's those thoughts that we have. So if we want more peace, there is actually, this is part of the spiritual path, there is a pathway to this. And you might have heard me say it all the time. I sound a bit like I repeat myself a lot, and that's just because the spiritual path is a very simple one. It's simple, but it's not necessarily easy. So what's the path? You practice acceptance. So let me start by saying, first with ourselves, because it always has to start with ourselves, and then with others, okay? So self-acceptance. So the first thing is we learn to accept things as they are showing up in our experience. How do we accept them? We stop judging everything. I've done other videos on this if you look on the YouTube channel about judgment and non-judgment and the importance of becoming more neutral about the things that we are experiencing in our lives. Instead of judging it, oh, this is good, this is bad, this is uncomfortable, I don't like this, I wish that didn't happen, right? So when we resist something, we create more of it, and we do the one thing we're trying to not do, which is perpetuate it. So if we don't want to perpetuate the things that make us unhappy, unsad, and uncomfortable, it sounds counterintuitive, but we accept it. So we accept, we don't judge, and when we do both of those things, we neutralize them in our thought processes. And then when we've neutralized it and we haven't got this big emotion or fear or anxiety, worry, concern, or some other emotion there, when we become more neutral about it, then there's more spaciousness for love and acceptance of ourselves first, and then with others too. And then there's more room for joy. And then there's more room for peace, right? So the pathway is kind of very simple. The practice will be there for a lifetime, I suspect, for most of us. And it does take practice. It takes practice to stop the mind ruminating on things, stop the mind going off on expectations of what you want and what you don't want, what you like, what you don't like. So you can have a preference, but without the judgment. So peace is really always there. It's just the fact that the mind is creating all these thoughts around things. So, that's why people like meditation, right? Because it's the practice of, it's not really about removing those thoughts, but it's like those clouds, we learn to let those clouds pass through. And then what's behind that is the sun of love, joy and peace, right? That's why we like meditation so much, right? So if we want more peace, that's the practice. And you also asked in a previous question about high vibration, and high vibration is also that high vibrational states are love, peace and joy states. So we practice all the things that will help us to keep our vibration high, because if we're in our essence states, there's not much space for our mind to come in. At the higher kind of feeling tones, there's no real need for thoughts. They don't seem so necessary, right? If you're in love, you're just feeling good, right? You're not really you don't have to sit and contemplate everything and pick it all apart. Your mind isn't really required. If you're joyful, if you're happy, if you're laughing, you don't have a lot of thoughts. You're just really enjoying it. It's essence. It's bubbling up from within. So high vibration activities, practices, staying at that high vibration, is less mindy and more essence-y. So that's still the same practice, right? And that's why I have decided to do this 7-week course that I talked about on the call yesterday about personal power, because the first step is how to maintain a high vibration. Also in there is about self-worth and self-love. Also within there is about judgment and non-judgment and acceptance and things like that, and about our shadows. And so all these practices, all of these steps, if you like, to self-power and personal power mastery, are all parts of how do we become more powerful within ourselves. We become more powerful in ourselves when we're less mind and more essence, more of our true nature, more aligned to who we truly are. And when we're aligned to who we truly are and what we're here to be doing, there's a lot of peace in that. There's a lot of trusting in that. And when we trust the universe, when we trust ourselves, when we love ourselves, we love the universe, then that really does create that sense of peace. That peace is always there. And the mind doesn't really have as much of a role to play. So I did say it was quite a long answer to that question, because it's a really big question, but I wanted to answer it as best as I could in a capsule kind of way, because I think it's a really important question, and I think it's a really great question, and it's something that I practice, non-judgment, acceptance, love and compassion, and all those kind of things, and it does take practice. Sometimes we do well with it, sometimes we don't, but that's the practice. And the more you do it, the less the mind interferes. The less the mind interferes with things, the more peace there is. Less clouds, more sun. So those are the questions, those are the answers, and I hope to see you on the next monthly call in June.